I've earned 30 plus certifications, and I'm here to guide you to success on your exam. Welcome to the Ultimate AI 102 Exam Masterclass. Are you ready to crack the AI 102 exam in one go? You're in the right place. In this session, we'll arm you with powerful insights and hand-picked questions that can make all the difference in your exam performance. We've scanned the web using intelligent crawlers to gather the most critical and high-impact questions, all compiled into one powerful PDF resource. You can download it from the link in the description. Not only will we explore these must-practice questions, but we'll also share real exam experiences and pro tips to give you that competitive edge. Let's dive into the key questions that could shape your success. Question 1. You are developing the knowledge base. You use Azure Video Analyzer for Media, previously Video Indexer, to obtain transcripts of webinars. You need to ensure that the solution meets the knowledge base requirements. What should you do? A. Create a custom language model. B. Configure audio indexing for videos only. C. Enable multi-language detection for videos. D. Build a custom person model for webinar presenters. Correct answer A. Create a custom language model. Explanation. Creating a custom language model improves transcript accuracy for domain-specific terms. This ensures the knowledge base understands webinar content more effectively. Question 2. You are developing the knowledge base by using Azure Cognitive Search. You need to meet the knowledge base requirements for searching equivalent terms. What should you include in the solution? A. Synonym map. B. A suggester. C. A custom analyzer. D. A built-in key phrase extraction skill. Correct answer A. Synonym map. Explanation. A synonym map allows matching equivalent words during search queries. This improves search results by returning related terms automatically. Question 3. You are developing the chatbot. You create the following components. A Q&A maker resource. A chatbot by using the Azure Bot Framework SDK. You need to add an additional component to meet the technical requirements and the chatbot requirements. What should you add? A. Microsoft Translator. B. Language understanding. C. Orchestrator. D. Chatdown. Correct answer C. Orchestrator. Explanation. Orchestrator helps route user queries to the correct knowledge source. It improves chatbot accuracy when multiple services are involved. Question 4. You are developing the knowledge base by using Azure Cognitive Search. You need to process wiki content to meet the technical requirements. What should you include in the solution? A. An indexer for Azure Blob Storage attached to a skill set that contains the language detection skill and the text translation skill. B. An indexer for Azure Blob Storage attached to a skill set that contains the language detection skill. C. An indexer for Azure Cosmos DB attached to a skill set that contains the document extraction skill and the text translation skill. D. An indexer for Azure Cosmos DB attached to a skill set that contains the language detection skill and the text translation skill. Correct answer D. An indexer for Azure Cosmos DB attached to a skill set that contains the language detection skill and the text translation skill. Explanation. Cosmos DB indexer supports structured wiki storage and enrichment. Language detection and translation ensure multilingual processing. Question 5. You need to measure the public perception of your brand on social media by using natural language processing. Which Azure service should you use? A. Language service. B. Content moderator. C. Computer vision. D. Form recognizer. Correct answer A. Language service. Explanation. Language service provides sentiment analysis for public opinion. It helps measure brand perception from social media text. Question 6. You have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure OpenAI resource named AI1. You build a chatbot that uses AI1 to provide generative answers to specific questions. You need to ensure that questions intended to circumvent built-in safety features are blocked. Which Azure AI content safety feature should you implement? A. Monitor online activity. B. Jailbreak risk detection. C. Moderate text content. D. Protected material text detection. Correct answer B. Jailbreak risk detection. Explanation: Jailbreak risk detection identifies attempts to bypass safety restrictions, helping block malicious prompts and ensuring responsible AI usage in applications. Question 7. You have an Azure DevOps pipeline named Pipeline 1 that is used to deploy an app. Pipeline 1 includes a step that will create an Azure AI Services account. You need to add a step to Pipeline 1 that will identify the created Azure AI Services account. The solution must minimize development effort. Which Azure Command Line Interface (CLI) command should you run? A. AZ Resource Link. B. AZ Cognitive Services Account Network Rule. C. AZ Cognitive Services Account Show. D. AZ Account List. Correct answer C. AZ Cognitive Services Account Show. Explanation: This command retrieves details of the created AI resource, allowing quick identification with minimal effort in automated deployment pipelines. Question 8. You have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure AI content safety resource named CS1. You plan to build an app that will analyze user-generated documents and identify obscure offensive terms. You need to create a dictionary that will contain the offensive terms. The solution must minimize development effort. What should you use? A. A text classifier. B. Language detection. C. Text moderation. D. A block list. Correct answer D. A block list. Explanation: Block list allows defining custom offensive terms, making it easier to detect and filter inappropriate or harmful content in user-generated documents. Question 9. You have an Azure subscription and 10,000 ASCII files. You need to identify files that contain specific phrases. The solution must use cosine similarity. Which Azure OpenAI model should you use? A. Text Embedding Ada 002. B. GPT-4. C. GPT-35 Turbo. D. GPT-4-32K. Correct answer A. Text Embedding Ada 002. Explanation: Embedding model converts text into vectors, enabling cosine similarity calculations for identifying related content across large datasets efficiently. Question 10. You have an Azure subscription. You need to deploy an Azure AI search resource that will recognize geographic locations. Which built-in skills should you include in the skill set for the resource? A. Azure OpenAI embedding skill. B. Document extraction skill. C. Entity recognition skill. D. Entity linking skill. Correct answer C. Entity recognition skill. Explanation: Entity recognition extracts geographic locations from text, enabling applications to identify cities, countries, and regions for enhanced search capabilities. Question 11. You have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure OpenAI resource named OpenAI1 and a user named User1. You need to ensure that User1 can upload datasets to OpenAI1 and fine-tune the existing models. The solution must follow the principle of least privilege. Which roles should you assign to User1? A. Cognitive Services OpenAI Contributor. B. Cognitive Services Contributor. C. Cognitive Services OpenAI User. D. Contributor. Correct answer A. Cognitive Services OpenAI Contributor. Explanation: This role allows dataset upload and model fine-tuning while limiting permissions, ensuring security through least privilege access control principles. Question 12. You have an Azure OpenAI model. You have 500 prompt completion pairs that will be used as training data to fine-tune the model. You need to prepare the training data. Which format should you use for the training data file? A. CSV. B. XML. C. SONL. D. TSV. Correct answer, C. SONL. Explanation. SONL format stores prompt completion pairs line by line, making it suitable for training and fine-tuning Azure OpenAI models efficiently. Question 13. You develop a custom question answering project in Azure Cognitive Service for language. The project will be used by a chatbot. You need to configure the project to engage in multi-turn conversations. What should you do? A. Add follow-up prompts. B. Enable active learning. C. Add alternate questions. D. Enable chit-chat. Correct answer A. Add follow-up prompts. Explanation. Follow-up prompts enable multi-turn conversations by guiding users through sequential interactions, improving chatbot engagement and response accuracy. Question 14. You have an Azure AI search resource named Search1. You have an app named App1 that uses Search1 to index content. You need to add a custom skill to App1 to ensure that the app can recognize and retrieve properties from invoices by using Search1. What should you include in the solution? A. Azure AI Immersive Reader. B. Azure OpenAI. C. Azure AI Document Intelligence. D. Azure AI Custom Vision. Correct answer, C. Azure AI Document Intelligence. Explanation. Document Intelligence extracts structured data from invoices, enabling automated data processing and integration with Azure AI Search for indexing. Question 15. You are developing an app that will use the speech and language APIs. You need to provision resources for the app. The solution must ensure that each service is accessed by using a single endpoint and credential. Which type of resource should you create? A. Azure AI Language. B. Azure AI Speech. C. Azure AI Services. D. Azure AI Content Safety. Correct answer, C. Azure AI Services. Explanation. Azure AI Services resource provides a unified endpoint and key, simplifying access and management of multiple AI capabilities and applications. Question 16. You build a conversational bot named Bot1. You need to configure the bot to use a QName Maker application. From the Azure portal, where can you find the information required by Bot1 to connect to the QName Maker application? A. Access Control IAM. B. Properties. C. Keys and endpoint. D. Identity. Correct answer, C. Keys and endpoint. Explanation. Keys and endpoint section contains credentials and URLs required for connecting chatbot to QName Maker knowledge base services securely. Question 17. You have an Azure subscription. You need to build an app that will compare documents for semantic similarity. The solution must meet the following requirements. Return numeric vectors that represent the tokens of each document. Minimize development effort. Which Azure OpenAI model should you use? A. GPT 3.5. B. GPT 4. C. Embeddings. D. DALL-E. Correct answer, C. Embeddings. Explanation. Embeddings generate numeric representations of text, enabling semantic similarity comparisons and efficient document matching with minimal development effort. Question 18. You are building an Azure AI language understanding solution. You discover that many intents have similar utterances containing airport names or airport codes. You need to minimize the number of utterances used to train the model. Which type of custom entity should you use? A. Pattern.any. B. Machine learning. C. Regular expression. D. List. Correct answer D. List. Explanation. List entity defines predefined values like airport names, reducing training data requirements and improving recognition accuracy for similar utterances. Question 19. You have an app named App1 that uses a custom Azure AI document intelligence model to recognize contract documents. You need to ensure that the model supports an additional contract format. The solution must minimize development effort. What should you do? A. Lower the confidence score threshold of App1. B. Create a new training set and add the additional contract format to the new training set. Create and train a new custom model. C. Add the additional contract format to the existing training set. Retrain the model. D. Lower the accuracy threshold of App1. Correct answer, C. Add the additional contract format to the existing training set. Retrain the model. Explanation. Adding new format to existing dataset and retraining updates model efficiently without creating a new model, saving time and effort. Question 20. You have an app named App1 that uses an Azure Cognitive Services model to identify anomalies in a time series data stream. You need to run App1 in a location that has limited connectivity. The solution must minimize costs. What should you use to host the model? A. Azure Kubernetes Service AKS. B. Azure Container Instances. C. A Kubernetes cluster hosted in an Azure Stack Hub integrated system. D. The Docker engine. Correct answer D. The Docker engine. Explanation. Docker engine enables local deployment of models, reducing costs and supporting execution in environments with limited or no internet connectivity. Question 21. You are building an internet-based training solution. The solution requires that a user's camera and microphone remain enabled. You need to monitor a video stream of the user and detect when the user asks an instructor a question. The solution must minimize development effort. What should you include in the solution? A. Speech-to-text in the Azure AI Speech Service. B. Language detection in Azure AI Language Service. C. The face service in Azure AI Vision. D. Object detection in Azure AI Custom Vision. Correct answer A. Speech-to-text in the Azure AI Speech Service. Explanation. Speech-to-text converts spoken questions into text, enabling detection of user queries and video streams with minimal development effort required. Question 22. You are building a chatbot. You need to ensure that the bot will recognize the names of your company's products and code names. The solution must minimize development effort. Which Azure Cognitive Service for Language Service should you include in the solution? A. Custom text classification. B. Entity linking. C. Custom named entity recognition NER. D. Key phrase extraction. Correct answer, C. Custom named entity recognition NER. Explanation. Custom named entity recognition identifies specific product names and code names, improving chatbot understanding with minimal effort through domain-specific entity extraction. Question 23. You are developing an app that will use the decision and language APIs. You need to provision resources for the app. The solution must ensure that each service is accessed by using a single endpoint and credential. Which type of resource should you create? A. Language. B. Speech. C. Azure Cognitive Services. D. Content Moderator. Correct answer, C. Azure Cognitive Services. Explanation. Cognitive Services resource provides single endpoint and credential, simplifying integration of multiple APIs like decision and language services efficiently. Question 24. You are building a chatbot for a travel agent. The bot will ask users for a destination and must repeat the question until a valid input is received, or the user closes the conversation. Which type of dialogue should you use? A. Prompt. B. Input. C. Adaptive. D. Q&A maker. Correct answer A. Prompt. Explanation. Prompt dialogue repeatedly asks users for input until valid response is received, ensuring controlled and reliable data collection during conversations. Question 25. You are designing a content management system. You need to ensure that the reading experience is optimized for users who have reduced comprehension and learning differences, such as dyslexia. The solution must minimize development effort. Which Azure service should you include in the solution? A. Azure AI Immersive Reader. B. Azure AI Translator. C. Azure AI Document Intelligence. D. Azure AI Language. Correct answer A. Azure AI Immersive Reader. Explanation. Immersive Reader enhances readability by supporting text spacing, highlighting, and audio features, helping users with dyslexia and comprehension challenges. Question 26. You are developing an app that will use the text-to-speech capability of the Azure AI Speech Service. The app will be used in motor vehicles. You need to optimize the quality of the synthesized voice output. Which speech synthesis markup language (SSML) attribute should you configure? A. The style attribute of the MSDTS, express as element. B. The effect attribute of the voice element. C. The pitch attribute of the prosody element. D. The level attribute of the emphasis element. Correct answer, B. The effect attribute of the voice element. Explanation. Voice effect attribute optimizes synthesized speech quality for environments like vehicles, improving clarity and listening experience during audio playback. Question 27. You are building a chatbot. You need to configure the bot to guide users through a product setup process. Which type of dialogue should you use? A. Component. B. Action. C. Waterfall. D. Adaptive. Correct answer, C. Waterfall. Explanation. Waterfall dialogue guides users step by step through processes, making it ideal for structured workflows like product setup or multi-stage interactions. Question 28. You are building an app that will use the Azure AI Video Indexer service. You plan to train a language model to recognize industry-specific terms. You need to upload a file that contains the industry-specific terms. Which file format should you use? A. XML. B. TXT. C. XLS. D. PDF. Correct answer B. TXT. Explanation. TXT file format is used to upload custom vocabulary, allowing recognition of industry-specific terms when training language models in Video Indexer. Question 29. You are developing a system that will monitor temperature data from a data stream. The system must generate an alert in response to atypical values. The solution must minimize development effort. What should you include in the solution? A. Multivariate anomaly detection. B. Azure Stream Analytics. C. Metric alerts in Azure Monitor. D. Univariate anomaly detection. Correct answer D. Univariate anomaly detection. Explanation. Univariate anomaly detection analyzes single data stream, detecting unusual patterns efficiently with minimal setup and reduced complexity compared to multivariate approaches. Question 30. You have a chatbot that was built by using Microsoft Bot Framework and deployed to Azure. You need to configure the bot to support voice interactions. The solution must support multiple client apps. Which type of channel should you use? A. Cortana. B. Microsoft Teams. C. Direct line speech. Correct answer, C. Direct line speech. Explanation. Direct line speech channel enables voice interaction across multiple platforms, supporting speech-enabled bots with seamless integration into various client applications. Question 31. You are building a solution in Azure that will use Azure Cognitive Service for language to process sensitive customer data. You need to ensure that only specific Azure processes can access the language service. The solution must minimize administrative effort. What should you include in the solution? A. IPsec rules. B. Azure Application Gateway. C. A virtual network gateway. D. Virtual network rules. Correct answer D. Virtual network rules. Explanation. Virtual network rules restrict access to specific networks, ensuring only authorized Azure resources can securely connect to language service endpoints. Question 32. You have an Azure OpenAI model named AI1. You are building a web app named App1 by using the Azure OpenAI SDK. You need to configure App1 to connect to AI1. What information must you provide? A. The endpoint, key, and model name. B. The deployment name, key, and model name. C. The deployment name, endpoint, and key. D. The endpoint, key, and model type. Correct answer, C. The deployment name, endpoint, and key. Explanation. Deployment name, endpoint, and key are required to connect application with Azure OpenAI resource and access deployed model functionality securely. Question 33. You have an Azure subscription that contains a language service resource named TA1 and a virtual network named VNet1. You need to ensure that only resources in VNet1 can access TA1. What should you configure? A. A network security group, NSG, for VNet1. B. Azure Firewall for VNet1. C. The virtual network settings for TA1. D. A language service container for TA1. Correct answer, C. The virtual network settings for TA1. Explanation. Configuring virtual network settings restricts access to language service, allowing only resources within specified network to communicate securely. Question 34. You have an Azure AI service model named Model 1 that identifies the intent of text input. You develop a Python app named App1. You need to configure App1 to use Model 1. Which package should you add to App1? A. Azure Cognitive Services Language Text Analytics. B. Azure AI Language Conversations. C. Azure Management Cognitive Services. D. Azure Cognitive Services Speech. Correct answer B. Azure AI Language Conversations. Explanation. Azure AI Language Conversations SDK enables integration of intent recognition models into applications, supporting conversational AI development in Python efficiently. Question 35. You have a 20 GB video file named file1.avi that is stored on a local drive. You need to index file1.avi by using the Azure Video Indexer website. What should you do first? A. Upload file1.avi to an Azure storage queue. B. Upload file1.avi to the Azure Video Indexer website. C. Upload file1.avi to Microsoft OneDrive. D. Upload file1.avi to the www.youtube.com webpage. Correct answer B. Upload file1.avi to the Azure Video Indexer website. Explanation. Uploading video directly to Video Indexer website is required before processing, enabling indexing, transcription, and analysis of media content. Question 36. You are building an app that will include 1 million Scan magazine articles. Each article will be stored as an image file. You need to configure the app to extract text from the images. The solution must minimize development effort. What should you include in the solution? A. Computer vision image analysis. B. The Read API in computer vision. C. Form recognizer. D. Azure Cognitive Service for Language. Correct answer B. The Read API in computer vision. Explanation: Read API extracts printed and handwritten text from images, making it ideal for OCR tasks involving scanned documents efficiently. Question 37. You are building a chatbot. You need to configure the chatbot to query a knowledge base. Which dialog class should you use? A. Q&A Maker Dialog. B. Adaptive Dialog. C. Skill Dialog. D. Component Dialog. Correct answer A. Q&A Maker Dialog. Explanation: Q&A Maker Dialog connects chatbot to knowledge base, enabling automated responses to user questions based on predefined answers and indexed content. Question 38. You are building a flight booking bot by using the Microsoft Bot Framework SDK. The bot will ask users for the departure date. The bot must repeat the question until a valid date is given, or the users cancel the transaction. Which type of dialog should you use? A. Prompt. B. Adaptive. C. Waterfall. D. Action. Correct answer A. Prompt. Explanation: Prompt dialog ensures repeated questioning until valid input is provided, making it suitable for collecting structured information like dates reliably. Question 39. You have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure Cognitive Service for Language resource. You need to identify the URL of the REST interface for the language service. Which blade should you use in the Azure portal? A. Identity. B. Keys and endpoint. C. Networking. D. Properties. Correct answer B. Keys and endpoint. Explanation: Keys and endpoint blade provides API URL and authentication keys required for accessing language service REST interface securely. Question 40. You are building a solution that will detect anomalies in sensor data from the previous 24 hours. You need to ensure that the solution scans the entire dataset at the same time for anomalies. Which type of detection should you use? A. Batch. B. Streaming. C. Change points. Correct answer A. Batch. Explanation: Batch detection analyzes entire dataset at once, making it suitable for detecting anomalies across historical data efficiently and accurately. Please revise full PDF 2 to 3 times for 100% success. Check the description for the PDF download link and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for upcoming episodes. Thank you.